Good afternoon, Joe Biondo with Inbound Logistics, live from MODEX 2026. I'm here with Mark Dickinson, SVP of Sales and Software with Attabotics. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Hanging in here. It's been a busy day so far. We can see the show floor behind us. But, Mark, I wanted to ask a couple of questions of you. So what would you say is the biggest pain point your customers are bringing to you this year compared to like 2 years ago?
You know, they really seem to be focused on how to get these systems implemented, how they apply to their operation. That's something we work very closely with them on, really understanding their business and how the technology that we've developed can really support them. You know, we stand pretty close with them and make sure that what we're working on is something that's deployed, capable, and meets what their needs are. So we spend a lot of time in data, spend a lot of time in operations, and designing with them.
So this is a good vantage point to ask this question, but looking around the show floor here at MODEX today, what would you say is something you've seen that was unthinkable even just 5 years ago?
You know, a lot of this was unthinkable 5 years ago. You know, you look at some of the market dynamics, you look at some of the reasons why some of these technologies were born. You know, we don't make, for the most part, real big million square foot buildings anymore. We're doing a lot more with smaller facilities, buildings that have existed, buildings that are being retrofitted, and that kind of thing. So how do we squeeze more out of the existing floor space, that kind of thing. So these technologies that get into a lot more denser storage, while still remaining flexible and scalable, is really interesting to watch.
And what would you say with that in mind? What would you say is the biggest mistake you see companies making as they're embarking on their digital transformation journey?
You know, trying to take whatever it is that's out on the floor and shoehorn their operation into it. You know, each one of these companies that's here at the show, they've all got incredible capabilities and technology, but it's really the fitting that to the customer's operation so that you're not forcing them to change the operation in order to stay on product. And it's a balancing act that everybody follows. It's really making sure that we as solutions providers understand the business and be able to affect positive change rather than the last thing we want is somebody to stand there and be like, you know, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. We want to work with them to make sure that it's adopted.
Mark, so we've heard this is a new era for Attabotics with the Lafayette Systems merger or partnership. What could you say to customers that are looking at Attabotics now that they have the 30 years of operational discipline at Lafayette behind them?
Yeah, so Lafayette brings an incredible amount of capability, integrity, and just knowledge. They've done hundreds of systems, bringing additional value to their customers. You know, taking that mindset and that mentality and putting that into the Attabotics technology really gives it a springboard from which to be successful. You know, we've already rationalized manufacturing across the Canadian-U.S. border. We're also looking at different other pieces, using some of the PLC technology and reimagining some of the things that we've been working on with the robots. You know, at the end, we've got similar technologies, similar capabilities, and the Lafayette family of companies brings us the ability to look at things in a different light and make sure that we're aimed in the right direction.
So safety and resilience top of mind. You know, you just unveiled the Guardian metal bin here a couple minutes ago. Can you explain how moving from plastic to galvanized steel changes the game for fire suppression and insurance certifications?
Sure. So the robot itself, we've always designed that with safety in mind. You know, we use certified systems for charging for the capacitor bank and for the robot itself. You know, the Guardian bin was kind of the next evolution of where we take it. So by being able to remove or not use plastic injection molded, we remove a lot of the cross section of fire components that would be go into a system. So by using the metal bin, it really provides another level of risk mitigation to customers to make sure that we're taking care of the contents that they put into the system.
That makes perfect sense. So you recently announced an expansion into the U.S. Manufacturing here in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. How does having production on both sides of the border control lead times, and better serve North American-based customers?
Yeah, so we have the ability now to directly supply customers here in the U.S. with U.S.-made equipment. Actually, part of the booth, some of the equipment that's on the booth today was manufactured in Kentucky. So when you look at the global market and some of the different macro effects that are being recognized, we feel that having the ability to supply out of both countries really gives our customers the ability to mitigate any tariffs, supply chain constraints, that kind of thing. So for the most part, I think U.S. customers would have U.S. manufactured product coming out of Kentucky. Any projects in Canada or international would come out of Calgary.
So for the skeptics who love the technology, but we're looking for a stable partner, what is your message to them coming out of MODEX 2026?
The Lafayette family of companies really provides that stability. Bruce and the family have spent the last 35 years building their reputation, and they stand on it firmly. Having Attabotics technology be part of Lafayette, in addition to Mesh Robotics and Kendale, Century Conveyor, and Lafayette Engineering, customers should get a good feeling about the solution that we provide to them.